Hello, and welcome back to the Will Run For podcast. I'm your host, Tom, and with me, as always, are our co-hosts, Erin.
Hey, guys.
Hello. Michael.
Hello.
And Diana.
Hey.
So how is everybody doing this week?
Doing well. We did a lot of running this weekend.
We did. We've been
Yeah,
running.
you guys got a ton of miles.
Yeah.
Well, this weekend we were going to do a 20-miler as we're building towards this 100K that we're still looking to do in July. And then we were going to go up to do a hike on the Appalachian Trail, but we decided that was 2 hours away, 4 hours, 5 hours in the car. We stayed local and did a 15-miler around here.
Yeah, just ran out the door and back.
Yeah, so that was nice.
It looked really hot. Both of you looked miserable in your Instagram stories.
It was very hot, by the way.
Yeah, it hit 90 degrees both days.
It was humid.
Yeah.
Wasn't much of a breeze on Sunday.
Yeah.
There was no
it
shade.
was really hot. Yeah, it was really hot all weekend.
But
our running group on Saturday met at 6:30. Like we usually meet at 7 or 7:30, and she was like, "So, is everyone okay meeting at 6:30?"
Yeah, I mean that's the smart thing to do. But since we've decided we're going to do this 100K in the middle of the day in July, apparently we're supposed to heat adapt. I don't really know.
Yeah, we gotta get used to it, I guess.
Probably makes a lot of sense. I mean, on Saturday when we were running, basically it turned into a trail run because we were in Savage Park here in Maryland. And it's a new route for us. And it took us down this gravel road, which me and Diana did 4 miles. We did it out and back. And it just felt stagnant.
Oh,
There was no air. It was moist.
Oof.
It was just miserable, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather be like dripping wet with sweat than it be so humid where it's just like staying on you. It feels like your pores can't breathe.
Yeah, I agree. I think on Saturday we had it where it started out really humid, so by like mile 2 you're just drenched already.
Yeah.
But then we got some rain, so it ended up working out okay. Because I'd rather it. That's the point where you're so hot and you're so sticky and wet that you can't. You're just praying for it to rain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
hot, sticky, and wet. Mm-hmm.
Pro tip though, we started bringing towels with us to our training group runs, so we can dry off and then put them down on the car seats.
Oh, yeah, definitely
yeah.
do that. Yeah, that's a must.
Yeah, he started wearing like sweatbands so that the sweat doesn't drip in his eyes.
Yeah, when you have no hair on your head, it rolls downhill fast.
Tom, you have that problem too?
I do not, but I will say we our running coach had a Zoom call. I think it was Thursday of last week, and she was giving us some tips about gear and different things to do when you're running in the heat. What did she say? Vaseline on your
eyebrows or
your
chapstick?
eyebrows or chapstick? Yeah.
Huh. Oh,
It's either or.
Oh, because it keeps the moisture from building up in there?
Wow.
Yeah, so then it
from
doesn't
running
drip
your
into
eyes.
your eyes.
That's interesting. There you go.
That's
Another
brilliant.
pro tip.
That is.
Yeah.
Another pro tip.
What if
We're
you
gonna
just
have to
shave
start
them?
charging for this podcast.
We are educational, guys.
What if you just shave them off?
Well, then
You
there's
first.
nothing to catch the sweat. I think that's worse.
I just want to see Diana with no eyebrows.
It's like a water.
Let's do it.
Is it like a waterfall?
Yeah.
It's like the late 90s where all the girls like
Oh my God!
just waxed their eyebrows,
It's
so
like,
they were just like a little thin strip.
And if you did it really badly, you look surprised.
Oh my God, so funny.
Oh God! All right. So what are we doing?
I'm like, Tom, bring us back to
What are we doing this week? Let's go.
Yeah, what are we talking about today?
Well, I know we got a ton of listener feedback, so I think we're going to share some of that to kick us off today.
Yeah, and then I'm excited because the girls are done, so we're going to finally learn about our guys. We're going to hear about Michael's journey today, right? Yes.
Maybe. We have the results of Would You Rather from last week, the snot rocket and the chafing.
I'm still scarred. I can't get over it.
And then I've got something new for you guys today. So instead of a Would You Rather, so I guess we'll have to stay tuned to see what that is.
We'll wrap it up as always by sharing something good. But
So,
Michael, you wanted to give a shout out to our 5-star reviews?
Yeah. So each week we're going to read the 5-star reviews. Hopefully we have some each week. I am not going to keep putting them in each week. So other people need to do them. So first we had one from Beach Girl 812, who's Lynn. Great podcast to listen to while on a run. It made the miles just fly by. Very entertaining. And Ryan Teets was the other. Always looking forward to the next episode. Love the format and the conversations. Keep up the great work. So remember to leave those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. I think you can rate on Stitcher as well. I don't know what other ones do rating systems, honestly. But Apple's kind of the more important one because it's with Spotify, it's one of the top one. Really, I don't think Spotify has a rating system though, as far as I know.
don't think so. But but it also helps people find us, and that's what we're trying to.
That's why it's important.
Build our audience. Yes, it's not for our.
It's a little vanity.
I mean, it makes us feel good. Don't get me wrong. As we beg you to rate us 5 stars,
please give us 5-star reviews. Do not be honest.
Look, it's a little bit of vanity, but it's mostly for exposure because of vanity.
All right, but before we get into all that, let's start with what each of us are running for this week. How about you, Diana? Why don't you get us started?
Sure, I can kick us off. So I think this week I'm definitely running for Friends. The Baltimore Women's Classic was supposed to happen this weekend. That's one of my favorite races every single year in Baltimore. It is, I think, 98% women. So it's all girl power. Lots of mothers and daughters do it. They give you a rose at the end. It's just a great race. So they decided to do it virtually this year. So a group of us met in Columbia on Sunday. So it was my first time running with kind of a larger group of friends. So there were 4 girls. I ran with Nikki, Nicole, and Kate. And then we actually went and got brunch afterwards. So it just felt like an old school running weekend that I've missed. So I was definitely running for Friends this week.
That's always fun. I am just running for sanity. I've had enough of everybody at work. I've had enough of group work messages. I've had
enough of me.
Enough of the older people I work with who don't understand the etiquette of group messages in a professional setting. Not that we're professionals, but I'm running for the sanity of that.
And because you have to deal with Erin.
Well, that too.
Yes. I was just going to say, well, you didn't even mention me, so I guess I'm good.
Yeah.
You're not on the list.
I'm not on the list.
You didn't make the list.
And this cat below me. And the sanity from the cat.
Nice. So for me, I'm continuing my virtual challenge, the Race Across Maryland. If I wasn't lazy today, I'd be at 75 miles, but I'm just shy of 75 miles for the first, 14 days.
Nice.
Wow.
So yeah, let me tell you, those dog walks really add up, and I count absolutely everything.
Yeah.
So I've been averaging at least 4 miles a day. So I couple the dog walks with at least, a run and then a long run on the weekend. So it's going pretty good. Feel pretty good. So yeah, I'm gonna keep it up.
Well, Archie the dog is also working on his summer bod, so he really needs it. He likes to keep it tight.
That's true.
Oh, that's awesome. I was running this week for Salt Air and Ocean Views. Actually, the last couple weekends. I used to live down by the beach, and I moved a little bit away, so I haven't been getting down there as much. I'm very excited. The last couple weeks, we've been driving down to the Jersey Shore and getting our long runs in down there, and I've really missed it. It's where when I started running, I did most of my long runs on the boardwalk and the bridge into Ocean City, New Jersey, and I've missed it a lot. Just the smell of the salt air, the sound of the ocean. So, yeah, that's what I was running for this week.
And we did a 20-mile run with 0 elevation change.
It's true. It was Strava
Zero.
literally said zero, and it was amazing.
See, where we live is so hilly. When I have to run on flat now, I feel like it's a struggle because at least the hill gives me something to do.
This week I was even more specific of I do not even want to run over the bridge. I want to run the boardwalk, and I don't care how many times we have to go back and forth. We're just going to run back and forth on the boardwalk because I don't even want the hill on the bridge.
Good plan.
So we did, as Diana mentioned, get a ton more feedback, and we are still very excited about that. We love seeing everyone's comments and sharing all their runs and what they're doing out there. The feedback to our posts, it's been really fun. So if you don't already follow us, please go find us on Facebook and Instagram at Will Run For Podcast. And also make sure you're tagging us in your posts and then hashtagging at hashtag Will Run For Podcast so that we can share your posts and cheer you on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. So we did get some really good feedback. So I'll kick us off. I know Brez Kathy on Instagram, she said that she got her 10 miles in while she was helping a friend train to run Boston virtually. Couldn't imagine doing Boston virtually. She also says that she runs for mental clarity, which it sounds like we're running for a lot this week. And that feeling she gets after a run. It is really hard to get out there and go for a run. And then after you do it, you never regret it. But she said the early morning quiet sets the tone for the day. Not going to lie, the mental struggle of getting out the door is real, but I never regret going, even if it's not my best performance. So love that. Karate Chop 16. When Erin asked, what gets you out the door when you're having a bad day? He responded, I remember never regretting going out for a run, but I have regretted not going out for a run plenty of times. Absolutely feel that. And then Nicole, also on Instagram, she was running on her Peloton app. She's loving her Peloton app, by the way. She doesn't actually have a Peloton machine and just uses the app. She's obsessed with it. She says it's got really great workouts.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
just learned
making
about
her
this.
a lot faster.
Yeah, I just learned about that recently, that there's an entire app that has a whole bunch of different workouts.
Karate
Yeah, so
also big in Peloton.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she just has like a normal treadmill, has been doing stuff on that. And she said that an instructor on one of those workouts said to channel her, to channel a strong person. And that day she said that she was channeling our host, Tom. And she said that Tom gets out there every day and busts his ass to be a better runner. And she wants to be like Tom when she grows up. So
I am not worthy. I am not worthy of that praise.
I don't know, Tom. I think we all want to be just like you when we grow up.
I would set my sights a little higher. But thank you for that.
Nice. And then we've got Dale_A. He was back out there swimming again. So I think that his app had another spasm. And then what is that? Gregor?
Greg in Orlando, maybe?
Yeah, I think it's Greg in Orlando.
Oh, Greg in Orlando. It's like our friend Matt, who I thought it said Matt Frumpa, but it's Matt from PA. I was like, why is this Instagram Frumpa?
Here's the deal. Matt Frumpa also fits.
Oh my God. That's like the best nickname ever, I think. Oh my God.
I know it'd be like Matt Frumpa.
So Greg
Greg in Orlando. He is running to chase what was once possible and to keep off his 70-pound weight loss. Woo! Get at it. I love that.
That's awesome.
And then our friend Michelle K is back, and she said that one morning she did not feel like running, but listening to our podcast helped get her through that run. So she shared that she was running the new Tappan Zee Bridge bike path with some friends. So thanks, Michelle. And, it's exciting that we inspired you.
That's awesome. Let's see. Kate left us a couple pieces. So after listening this morning, she, I guess, inadvertently committed herself to doing Dopey 2023.
No, she committed herself for real. It was just an unintentional invite by us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think when we were talking about it, somehow she was like, oh, I'm going to join them.
See, there you go. That sounds awesome. And after completing the Baltimore Women's Classic 5K, she was running for Tiny Sour Beers. Sours are always good in the summer. Ryan Teets gave us a great shout out on his YouTube channel. Check out. He's Ryan Runs Disney on YouTube. Said it makes him laugh, and it's more relatable to hear people who are semi-average runners and like having fun while they run. Although if you follow our Instagram, I do not ever have fun while we're running.
It's true.
You always look pretty miserable.
I know.
I attribute that to Erin. I don't think it's the running.
It's my brand. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
I'm kidding.
Thanks, Tom.
Let's see. Jen tagged us in a memory on IG from when her and Diana ran the Baltimore Women's Classic. her and Donna got out there, did the race virtually. They went into Baltimore, ran part of the course, around Inner Harbor. Looked a lot of fun. And Donna also shared on another run that she runs for her Diet Pepsi.
Diet Pepsi.
And if you know Donna, you don't get in the way of her and her Diet Pepsi after a run.
Hey, I used to like a Coke after a run. So let's see. Hysteria Brewing gave us a little shout out on IG after the mention last week.
Yeah, big F yeah from Hysteria Brewing.
And good old Jamie Hill. He hit a new personal record for 5K last week, which was awesome. He's still out there grinding, getting it done for the weight loss and the health. So it was funny. He asked me what the name of the podcast was like a week ago, and I'm like, didn't you write in last week?
To the email address, too, no less, that has the entire full title of our podcast.
Oh, God. I love Jamie so much. And, of course, I teased him last time, which I won't do this time.
That's great. Laura Duxon on Instagram, who is a new listener. She found us. I think she found us through some of the Run Disney stuff. She's a new listener. She gave us some great feedback on our format and our content. And I had a little chat with her through Instagram after she shared the podcast on her stories. And I was really excited to see that. I love when people find us, not that I don't love our friends, but when you get that random new listener, you're like, yes, I'm so excited.
And now we can say we've gone international. That's
because
finally.
she's from the Netherlands. I'm so excited. Amy was running for Mountain Views, and she was thankful for the cloud cover, because she lives out in Arizona, and she always posts some spectacular views. But when she posted, it was already 80 degrees out at 6 a.m., which God. I would say at least it's a dry heat, right? I mean, no humidity, something.
Actually, 80 and no sun is not awful.
See, there you go. Yeah. Not awful.
And no humidity either. Yeah.
Not awful, Amy.
It's not awful.
We received some shout outs from some of the podcasts that we listened to. 70mm gave us a nice little shout out again. And then a podcast that we listened to, it's one of Michael's other podcast friends from the broadcast, gave us a lovely little shout out as well, and told their listeners to come find us. So we want to shout them out as well and tell all of you to go find them. We will post their links to their shows in our show notes tonight. Go find
Tom's
them.
been listening to 70mm. He says he's been liking it.
Yeah, those guys are pretty cool.
There's something.
Cool.
Topical. It was topical because we had just finished watching all 8 Fast and Furious movies.
Oh my God, that's amazing timing.
So I went and listened to the episode where they reviewed Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
And they are spot on, let me tell you.
Our big feedback this week is from our friend Russell. He left us so much feedback. We are so excited. He actually left us an entire long post that we're going to have Tom read in a second, because we want you guys to hear this entire thing, because he's doing some amazing things out there. He mentioned he's training for his first marathon. He's doing that down in Baltimore, which, man, those hills, good luck. He wished everyone a happy Father's Day while he was doing his long run. He tagged us in basically every run he did this past week. He's
awesome.
Got a 1,000-mile goal for the year.
Get it?
Yeah. He said the heat's always defeated him, but he was out there anyway, getting it done. We're excited to watch his journey. Tom, why don't you take us away with his...
Yeah, and I apologize in advance. This is going to sound like I'm reading, because I am reading, and I do not want to get this wrong. So I apologize if there's not enough inflection in my voice, but to share Russell's post. Okay, here we go. So it starts with, "Will run for health. I posted my story in the Baltimore 10-miler virtual page, but figured I'd do so here as well. I just want to thank all of you as runners. Because of you, I stay motivated with my health for myself and my family. Long post. Sorry. Running has been a big part of my life the last year. I took running seriously in February of last year when I knew I needed to change my lifestyle. I started out with a Couch to 5K app. Man, that was hard. And watched my diet. It was hard, and there were many times that I wanted to just give up. I eventually endured the suck and kept going. I had a friend ask me one time, "What are you training for?" I had never thought about the question, mainly because I never saw myself as a runner, just a large guy trying anything to lose some weight. Well, that was when I decided at the time for my ultimate goal, to train for a half marathon. It was something that didn't seem achievable at the time, but I was determined to do it. I got even more serious with my running regime and dieting. I set my sights on the Baltimore Half Marathon, which I was told was crazy to run that as my first, which is true. Well, I did it, and I caught the runner's bug now. This year, I set my sights not only on the King Crab Challenge, but also to run my first marathon at the Baltimore Running Festival. The 10-miler that he just did will be part of my training runs, I hope, next year. Or this 10-miler will be part of my training runs, I hope, next year. I'm sorry. I hope next year I'll be able to run these in person with all of you wonderful people, as I plan to do the King Crab again. I do want to personally thank every one of you. I know you don't know me personally, but you have all helped me in so many ways, just being awesome and supportive as runners usually are with each other. It's seeing the miles logged and the goals achieved with others that keeps me going and driving for better. It's all of you that helped redefine my health and lose almost 100 pounds. Damn. My ultimate goal is eventually a 50-miler. And then he notes, my dad ran one of those, and I'd love to follow in his footsteps.
That is awesome.
He's going to make me cry again.
I was just going to say, actually, that just made me get a little teary again.
So I actually went to high school with Russell, and last summer he started messaging me when he kind of started running, because I guess he saw I was running, and he started asking me questions. And I had talked to him kind of on and off, just like Facebook and stuff like that. And he's like, well, what races should I sign up for? And like, should I be doing anything other than running? And I was like, well, you got to do a little cross training, things like that. So I think he just, got connected through us. And I'm so proud of him. And he's got like the cutest kids, and he always posts photos of him like pushing strollers. So he's like one of those people now who's like taking his kids out. So I just love it. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome to get involved in, like, whether it's running communities or podcast communities or a mix of them, whatever it is. Like, they can really pull you through some stuff. Like, that's how you meet people now, It's not like, like that's and to have people with similar interests or similar goals, or maybe who've done it prior and can give you advice going forward, or can pick you up on that down day, or
Yeah, I mean, that's how we all met. We all met through a podcast group. So, I think that having those people and seeing other people who are out there just like you, kind of struggling to get those miles in, and when you're having a bad day, you see their runs, and it really like lifts your spirits and makes you say, yeah, I mean, if they're doing it, I should be doing it too. And it helps you out like that. So I'm really excited to have him as part of our community.
Yeah, same. And I think it's so interesting how they first start off and you have your running friends, and then the running part falls off, that they just become your friends. So I had this group, and I refer to them as my running friends, but now I just say, well, they're my friends. It's not some random people that I know.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I agree.
Strangers that I know from the internet.
Yeah, because I mean, I've been involved in podcasting probably more than a decade now. And most of my friends, I would say, have come through that in some way or another. And in the beginning, it was like, oh, yeah, these are like you were saying, like my podcast friends. But no, they're all just like my friends. Like the broadcast, like Colleen is probably my closest friend. But we met through podcasting. So we're not podcast friends. We're just friends.
Yeah. And it's a weird transition when that happens, right? Like, I don't know, like you're even like with us, like I feel like I wanted you to be my friend, but you're always kind of like, oh, these are kind of my run friends from this run group. And then like one day it just like you turn around and you're like, oh no, Diana's she's just my friend. Tom doesn't hate me. He's now my friend.
I never hated you.
Oh God.
But you make a good point. Like the people that you meet in these different, what do you call them? these different
groups or whatever it is.
Yeah, like it just expands your world so much. Like we have friends in Texas, we have friends in Georgia, we have friends in Florida that, you know, we see at race weekends or through running related activities. But I mean, it's very comfortable when we see them, and that kind of evolution where you don't just consider them in that silo. It's really cool when that happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Well, yeah, that was awesome. All that listener feedback was really good, and we're very, very thankful for it.
Yeah, that's one of the, for me, and getting kind of a little bit back to podcasting, like that's kind of always been pretty much every show I've ever done. The goal of it has been to be inclusive community wise. Like to me, that's always been what's appealing about it, you know, and hopefully this show can do that in general, you know.
Yeah, it's part of the reason why I wanted to do this, was to build that community, and why I love giving the feedback and sharing what everyone has to say, because I know that when I was listening to my first podcast and I'd give feedback and I'd hear my name on it, I'd get excited, and it made me feel like I was part of it. So that's really what we want to do for you guys, and to bring you guys into this. So that's that.
Y'all ready for the main event?
Yes.
The main event.
I'm very excited.
It's very exciting.
All right, it's time to hear from Michael about what got him into running.
Oh boy.
Michael, take it away.
Let's see. Well, you see, it was a cold day in December 2015.
Are you sure it was cold?
Yeah, no, it actually wasn't that cold. So oddly enough, I do actually know the first day I started, like this specific.
Oh, you know the day?
Yeah, I do. Only because it's tracked on apps. So oddly,
I was just like, I'm gonna run now. I didn't even know there were apps.
Oh yeah,
He knew there was an app.
well, I had like, because a couple years prior, I did a Disney 5K.
Oh,
so I
gotcha.
ran like 5 times to get ready for it. So I used like Runkeeper or something. So like I literally ran like 5 miles. I don't, you know. So I had started running in 2015. I was like, let's see, I don't know, how old was I? 42. So I was like 42. Not in great. I was in terrible shape. It hurt my back a couple times that year. You know, I was on vacation in San Diego. I couldn't even walk. I had to wear like one of those janky CVS back braces the whole week. Yeah, it was like excruciating pain for weeks and weeks and weeks. So eventually, like through that fall, I kind of had worked out of the pain a little bit, and I was like, I got to do something. I just have to do something, and I have a track right next to my building, like literally right next to it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go out at lunch every day and just do whatever I can in 25 minutes or whatever, half hour, and see what I get done. So on December 2nd, 2015, that fateful day, I went out to that track and did, I think it was like 1.68 miles.
So he knows down to the like exact mileage.
Yeah, I mean, I was slow, which is fine.
This is very in character for you. I feel like to know like the exact date and the exact distance.
Hey, the devil's in the details. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, I mean, so those first few months, you know, I basically stayed around that two-ish mile mark. Yeah, I started getting a little more. I remember when I first started like trotting, like, because I'm mostly just fast walking and a little trotting. I remember when I first started doing a little more running, and it literally felt like my shins were going to rip open. I was like, dear God, what is happening? What is going on? And what really helped me get through that, like, because I wasn't really in any running groups or anything like that, but like the guys from like 70 millimeter, like they used to do a show called Paper Keg, and like Dale was part of that and all. So on Twitter, I was like posting every day that I was going out and doing it, and they were like holding me accountable basically, or, you know, rooting me on, or like Karate, same thing, was doing the same thing. He's part of that group as well. Karate Chop, sorry. For those who don't know who he is specifically.
That chop adds so much to that.
Yeah, if you just see some guy hanging for like 3 minutes, you're going to know who it is. But so that accountability every day to people like really kept me going, you know? It really just kept me Sorry? Diana's making everybody laugh. one day you'll be able to see us do this. So that accountability from people was amazing. And so over that like winter into summer, thankfully it wasn't a bad winter, so I was able to keep going pretty regularly. I didn't have any long breaks because of snow or anything. And I eventually I was like, you know what? Like, I need to set some kind of goal or I'm not going to keep going. So I signed up actually for the Disney Half Marathon in 2017, the 2017 Disney Half. So I signed up for that about in summer sometime. You know, I was like, I need a goal. I'm kind of like, I'm able to run now. I want to be able to keep doing it. I need something to shoot for. So I figured a year of training to get to a half marathon was a reasonable thing.
So and that was Diana, like peak Disney run time. Like they were selling out in like 2 minutes at that point.
Yeah.
Diana we made goals for 5Ks in our first year. Michael goes straight for the half marathon.
Yeah, no. But that was the end of the year. I didn't do a lot of races in between. Like, I remember my first 8-mile run. It took me that was like the first time I went out on like a long run. Like, I didn't know how far I was going to go. I was like, I want to see how far I can go. And, you know, I was like, you know, I'm not making fun of anybody. I was like every novice runner where I had like, you know, rocking compression socks and everything else. I'm like, I'm going out for a long run. I got to have compression socks or my legs are going to fall off, right? That's what you got to do, right? And like, you know, and whatever else, and like bottles and all kinds of stuff, you know.
That's how I run a 5K now. Like, I literally have so much stuff with me when I run.
Did you have the bottle, the waist bottle?
Yeah, I had the waist thing with the bottle in the back.
With the compression socks.
Compression socks.
Did you have an armband with their phone?
Probably.
Like, I just am picturing him
runner nerded up.
Yeah,
nerded out.
Yeah. You know, you're learning. You're figuring things out. So I remember.
Well, sometimes it's a security blanket. Yeah. Like when I ran like 3 miles on Saturday or on Sunday, I had my full runner belt with me, and I didn't like drink my water at all.
But you had it.
Like, good thing you carried that.
Well, yeah, I feel like in summer it's always good to have that.
Yeah.
Like some of us may have done, like I've gone out on 20-mile runs and not borrowed enough water and been in the middle of the woods. So these things happen in summer.
I bring water if I go on a 20-mile drive.
Well, no, I brought water, just not enough, just a small bottle. But regardless, anyway, so the accountability from people I knew and like friends, like internet friends, I guess you want to say, but they're just friends. And that accountability really helped and got me through it. And then setting that goal for myself gave me reason to kind of actually have some kind of training. Like, I never do any training plans. I've never done training plans. My brother's a cross-country coach. So I asked for advice from just him or from other people who I know that run a lot. And they're like, yeah, if you just kind of do this mileage and this kind of thing, you know, I never did any specific, like, you do this on this day, this on this day, this on this day. Mm-hmm. Like, it was just like, I do not like structure whatsoever. So running plans are not for me. They may be for you, and that is great. I hate structure, so they are not for me. So eventually I ended up actually doing a 5K, oddly enough, one day in Ocean City, New Jersey with Dale_A and Slim from 70mm and Jones the Spear as well. And it was like 95 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning. Oh, it was the hottest thing I've ever done. I was like, holy cow, this is awful. But it went fine. And I did a few miles afterwards. But so my training was going really great in 2016. I was feeling good. I was pretty much, because I was, you know, I had dropped like, that first year, I probably dropped like 40 to 50 pounds.
Wow.
And so like the running became exponentially easier because I was getting in better shape and I was also losing weight. So it was like my legs were able to carry me a little more.
Yep.
And
did you change your diet at all?
Yeah, but not like, more portion size than like specific items, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. I would get into bad habits of like For those who don't know what Wawa is, I would go to Wawa like 3 times a day because it's like literally 40 seconds from my building. So, like I cut things out, and just moderate it. I didn't go crazy or anything. I just moderate it.
Yeah, you weren't like diet.
No.
What was that for, Tom?
Me and portion control are not friends.
Look on your face.
I supersize off principle.
See, I don't really eat, and even then, I don't eat fast food, and I didn't even then, just because it doesn't work for me. Sometimes, like after a race, I do like grabbing some McDonald's though. Like I'm not gonna lie, like I once in a while I like some hamburgers or something, but that's about it. But so anyway, 16 was going great. The summer went great. I was training really well. I was like, you know what? I looked. Somebody had said something at work about one of the guys I work with was running the Ocean City Half Marathon. I was like, oh, you know what? Let me hop in and do that. So I signed up last minute. And like, because I was ready for it. I had been doing decent training runs, running like 10 milers, 11, 12, whatever.
Oh, gotcha. So you were already kind of like at that training.
Yeah. I was at a solid training for a half. I had no idea
you
because
jumped pretty quickly in your mileage though up to that.
Yeah, well, because as I started losing the weight quickly, my legs were able to carry me a lot further. So I started pushing, and then I started watching, YouTube videos about like running and stuff, and you're like, oh my god, I gotta run so much further, so
you were inspired.
Yeah. So then I was like, all right, let me do this Ocean City half, and like I guess it went perfectly. Like it was perfect weather. I remember like the last 3 miles, I was like, oh my god, is this ever going to end? I mean, because it's a long run. So I think I ended up just over 2 hours, like just under 2:02, which,
oh my god.
it felt really good. Like I didn't like bonk at any point or anything like that. Like everything went like dead perfect. Like I'm not.
You were just in the zone.
Yeah, everything went just perfect. Weather, everything.
That's like a 9-minute mile.
I was gonna say,
I think it was like 9:50.
For a first half, that's pretty.
No, like I said, it went perfect.
Atypical.
Yeah, it went.
And I noticed the difference between Michael's story and my story and Erin's story is he didn't think he was going to die on every single race he did. Like, no, that's true. Every single thing I did, I was like, I'm going to die. I'm not making it through this.
Well, no, see, I did that the opposite way. Like in the beginning, everything went great. And then recently, I felt like I was going to die every single time.
So it's all downhill from here.
Yeah, no, it's like this peaks and valleys. So I was like, oh, you know what? I said, at that point, I was like, I did the half. I should upgrade to the full for Disney. I was like, but before that, I really wanted to prove to myself I could do it. So I was like, before I even try to upgrade, I'm going to do some training and see if I can get a 20-mile run in. I was like, if I can do the 20-miler by December, then I'll switch and I was able to switch to the marathon at that point. I was like, all right, I did a 20-miler. I at least know I can get through this. And that, of course, was the year that the half got canceled anyway, because there were severe thunderstorms overnight. And then the morning of the marathon, it was 30 degrees with 35-mile-an-hour winds.
Oh my gosh. Well, that was the one, right, where they call them like accidental marathoners.
Yes.
So they gave people the option with the half marathon down at Disney. Hey, if your race got canceled, we'll either refund you or you could upgrade to the marathon and just see what you can do. You can always get swept off the course if you want to. So some people hadn't even trained and got swept. And then some people hadn't trained and they just basically ran their 13.1 and walked out the other 13.1.
I'm pretty sure that Greg from Orlando was one of the accidental marathoners.
Was he? That's awesome.
I'm pretty sure that.
Because I was at Port Orleans, I believe. Riverside. No. I was at what's the other one? French Quarter. So that day, I remember sitting outside eating, and the people were running the dopey people were running their half marathon around the resort because it got canceled. Yeah. But I mean, those storms were raging that night. So first I was like, I was just prepared enough to finish a marathon.
Well, you had done one 20-miler?
I probably did 2. or in that range anyway. I'd at least done one, maybe two, but like they were like run walk, and which is obviously there's nothing wrong with that. But like shoes, I was wearing these like shoes I got from like DSW or something, like some Nike, like. So
you hadn't been fitted or found shoes yet that you.
I hadn't found like what would work for me. Yeah, these were like, and these weren't even like Nike like distance running shoes. These were like, I don't
workout
know.
shoes.
Yeah, like run 100 meters or something, like
sprinting shoes.
Yeah. So I remember that race. I remember parts of it. I remember going through Wide World of Sports and cursing all the run walk groups that were incredibly rude. This is not all of you. I am just talking about the groups that were in front of me, not crapping on anybody.
Oh, the ones that run or walk like 5, 6 across and then don't get out of anybody's way.
And don't let anybody through and then stop and then run past you and then get in front of you again and then stop. While taking up all the room on the sidewalk, which we know is pretty tight in Wide World Sports. So, and I was struggling as it was because, first it was cold as anything. And I wasn't like running some kind of pace where I was building heat and maintaining it. So I was just cold. Like my throwaway clothes, I kept on the whole race. I had like some big orange sweatshirt. And I was like, I'll just throw that away. I'm like, I'm not throwing this away. It's freezing.
Yeah. So, that's how you know it's cold, when you're keeping that garbage on.
Yeah, I kept all the crappy stuff I had on. And then I'm like, oh my God. So I finished, I finished and it was like, I don't know, a little over 5 hours. But I don't remember what it was, 5:02, 5:10, something like that.
Oh my God, right? He's like...
No,
did you stop for characters?
Yeah, just a couple, just a handful, because I didn't really know.
Infuriating.
Yeah,
I like how you're like, I don't really know exactly how it was, like 5:02.36, whatever.
I think it might have been 5:11. I don't know, but the worst.
Diana and I are just mad because you're like, no big deal. 5 hours, 11 minutes.
It was hard. Like I grinded that whole time.
I know.
I did.
You just are a little bit naturally faster than.
And I'm just jealous of people that are done sooner. Like that's the reason why I want to get faster, because sometimes I'm out there and I'm like, if I was just faster, I could be done now.
Yeah, there's that too. But it went really well and it was really good. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. So
that old mantra.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm never doing this again. So in May, I ran the New Jersey Marathon. In June, I ran half sour, half kraut in Philly, which is a half trail, half path marathon. Then I ran one in Albany. Then I ran one in Raleigh. And then I ran one in Rehoboth. That was all the same year.
All within the same year.
Yeah.
So wait, you did that one half and then just did nothing but marathons.
Yes.
So one half and then Disney, New Jersey, half sour, Hudson, City of Oaks, Rehoboth. So 6 marathons in 1 year after doing one half marathon.
Yeah, and I dropped.
Like, I'm never going to do them again, but let's do 5 more.
And then I dropped from like 5:11 to like 4:15 in the marathon that year. But I mean, you're talking, I did a lot of training that year. So
you run marathons the way that I order from Taco Bell.
Well,
because
I think
in the Taco Bell drive-thru, I like order a gordita, and then they're like, and what else? And I'm like, that's a great question. And so I'm like, how about another taco? And they're like, okay, great. What else? I'm like, all right. How about nachos?
Yep.
Like,
another solid question from the Taco Bell server.
I'm like, we can play this game all night. If you keep asking me what I want, I will keep ordering from you. And then they're like, so are you and your whole family drive around, and then it's just me. And I'm just embarrassed.
Oh, man.
But please continue.
Well, I think what had happened was in that summer, I was out in LA with some friends and at dinner, and my friend Jen was like, oh yeah, my brother just finished the 50 states, 50 marathons. I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. And at that point I had run the 3. I was like, wow, I'm 3 in. I should probably just do that.
There's only 47 more.
I'm already 3 in.
And there is something to be said that when you're in good enough shape to do one, you want to keep being in that shape.
Agreed.
I do agree with that.
And the best motivator is having a race to run. I don't care what you say.
Exactly. Yeah. And I also found that I really liked like the mid-sized city races. Like Disney was great and all. I like Disney because it's a fun one. The half sour, half kraut is a small Philly race, like put on by an ultra running company, which I didn't know at the time, obviously. But yeah, and going into that one, which was weird, all of a sudden, like I knew nothing about trail running at that point. All of a sudden, I'm running on this, running on like a normal paved path, like in a park, and all of a sudden, now we're going up on this like rocky trail. And then back down some rocky trail. I'm like, wait, what's this part of it? Like, what's going on here?
Especially because you're running Philly and you don't realize like Pennypack Park in Philly. You're like, oh, like, that there's paved trails. You don't realize
I had no idea
how much actual trail running you can get inside of a park. That's why it's called half sour, half kraut, because you do half on pavement, half on the trail.
Yeah. So I continued on with the marathon thing. I actually ran another marathon in January the next year.
Shocking.
February or early March, whatever it was. Then finally I did Big Sur with the Team Shenanigans crew. And my friend Tim does a film, or at that time was doing the filming at the race. And that was like the first time I really experienced like hills.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember like the cramping at the end of that race was like crushing me. But and then weirdly, I didn't really run another one until October, I guess. Yeah.
Well, Big Sur is supposed to be really challenging because of the hills, and then it's got a really strict pace requirement. Yeah. And it's another one of those races that has those firm cutoff points where they'll sweep you off the course.
Yeah,
so I know it stresses a lot of people out.
Yeah. I mean, they literally, when the time is done, they are cleaning it up. There's no lag. That's right. That was... In 2018, I also attempted my first 50K. So also being a dummy, I really knew nothing. Like, I knew very little about trail running. I had started some trail running with the Pineland Striders that year around here, which is all dead flat. And I was like, I can run marathons, so I guess I can do, you can do a 50K if you can do a marathon. I mean, that's just realistic. The problem was this one that I did in May of that year, it was relatively technical. There was elevation. It was the middle of May. It was 45 degrees. There was a nor'easter, and it poured rain for 12 hours, torrentially. You could literally see your breath all day. It was so cold.
That sounds fun.
So I only made it there was 3 loops. I made it 21 miles, and I was like, I'm just calling it, because I had to work the next day, and I just had it, and my knees were to the point where I couldn't run downhill. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to call it, because this just isn't smart. I need to be able to go to work. That's just kind of the way it is.
It's not worth calling out. It's not worth a day.
Yeah, it's like it's not worth getting hurt. It's not worth getting home at midnight. Let me just call it. And it literally poured for 6 more hours. So it was but I learned a lot on that race. So I really appreciated doing that. And
I feel like once you started the marathons, you just never went back. It was just you kept going with the longer distance goals.
Yeah.
You just got addicted to the longer endurance stuff. Yeah,
because then I had set a goal. There's a race, the Batona race, which someone next to me won.
Who's that?
I wanted to... What? The year I did it the first time, they had a 50K. Or it was 32 or 33 miles, whatever it was. But you had to have a qualifier race. So my qualifier race was going to be the Patapsco 50K by you guys.
Oh, yeah. We had dinner.
No, this was the year before I even knew you guys, actually.
Gotcha.
And thankfully, it was the year everything flooded, and they moved the race to the path around BWI, that 10-mile route. Well, because...
Did they clear the bikers before you guys had to run?
Yeah, it was mostly drizzly all day, so nobody was out there. It was great. That went super... So I ran my qualifier the week before the race I wanted to get into. So I ran back-to-back weekend 50Ks. As you do when you want to...
I cannot.
That's just ridiculous.
As you do when you want to run your first 50K. So thankfully it was actually moved off the trails, because the Patapsco Park is relatively technical. It's not super technical, but I would have never finished the 50K on that trail. I probably would have finished it, but I would have never been able to run the next weekend. And the next weekend I learned one of my big lessons at the Batona 50K, where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use tailwind in this race, never having used it before, and put it in every bottle in my vest.
I don't know what that is. What
It's
is that?
like the
I use it. It's a nutrition. It's just
yeah,
like
It's like Noon?
It goes in the water.
Yeah,
No.
it's got more calories.
Yeah.
I mean, Noon has a version of it called Endurance, but the Tailwind, it has calories in it, so it's like it replaces the chews. You don't have to eat solids at the same time. Unless you're going up to like, the really, really long distance stuff, then you probably want to add solids in. But yeah, the purpose of it is so that it's got calories in it as well.
So you're always taking in calories.
Yeah.
Well, I knew nothing about it. I put way too much in each bottle. I had no clean water whatsoever. So
you were like, I'm just going to leave this one bottle.
Yeah.
Free
no.
in
I'm
case.
just going to put it in everything.
I'm going to put it in everything.
Out on a trail in the middle of nowhere.
And Tailwind is the type of thing where you need to be taking fluid in, like enough, like you shouldn't put too much in. They even talk about it like on their websites and like different things, like how much you're supposed to put in. If you put too much in, it's a gut buster.
Yeah, I didn't read any of that. So I get about like 10 or 15 miles in and I feel terrible.
Ugh.
I'm like, oh my God, like awful. So I just dumped everything out. I was like, I can't even drink any of this stuff. So I had no water for like the next 9 miles till I got to an aid station and then refilled and I got some soup and stuff. So I was able to finish. It was a grind, but I learned like a huge lesson there. Like don't try new stuff on race day.
No, absolutely not. In the trail races, they don't have aid stations like I know they do, but like they're not as frequent as they are on road races.
Yeah, because it's going through a state forest, there's only certain points where they can really do it. So
gotcha.
there's a pretty long section in one part where it's like 12 miles or something like that. So and it was actually one of the longer sections that I was in, of course, where I was like, this stuff has got to go. I don't want any of it.
Yeah, it depends on the trail race itself. Sometimes you get them pretty frequently. Sometimes you have to self-support for a decent amount of time.
This just happened to be in a long section.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Where like my stomach was just blowing up because I was an idiot.
We've all been there.
Yeah. So I think Erin and I had been running together at that point, and she convinced me to go back to Disney that year. It's when I did 7.5 hour marathon. And like my
had so much fun.
Yeah.
Your favorite.
My big goal was to do my first double weekend marathon, which was the weekend after Disney. So I was like, of course I'll run Disney because I'm running 2 marathons the next weekend.
It's just a training run.
Why wouldn't I run Disney the weekend before?
Does that mean Saturday and Sunday?
Yes.
Good Lord.
So my goal was to go sub 5 hours, both of them. So the first day.
Oh my God.
So the first day I went nice and easy. It was warm. Actually, the first day was pretty warm. It was an island off of Hilton Head called Dalfouski. And they have a 40-miler and stuff like that. But I just did the marathon and it was warm. It was humid. So I probably expended more energy than I realized. And, because it's January and it's like 73 degrees down there. So, but I think I did it like 4:55, 4:56, something like that. So then I got to drive down to Jekyll Island in Georgia to run that one the next day. So I finish up, I get in my car, drive down to Jekyll Island, get to the hotel and all. There's, of course, a nor'easter hitting the next day. And the race starts out fine. Like I'm going all right. I'm just cruising. And basically Jekyll Island's like a barrier island, I believe, like a long straight island. And I get around the backside and like 30-mile-an-hour winds are just like crushing me in the face.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, man. And I'm looking at the time, trying to figure it out. And there was this older guy in front of me. He was probably like 65 or so. And he was doing run walk, kind of like a Galloway thing. And I was like, I'm just going to I'm going to follow his intervals and just go with him for now because I'm like dying. And at one point, I think I messaged Erin. I'm like, yeah, the 5-hour thing's done. I'm like, screw this, it's done. I got nothing left. And I think that was like 5 miles to go. So after I sent that message, I'm like, you know what?
Maybe I can do it.
I'm like, I might as well just run it out and see what happens.
And I didn't hear from him after that, so I thought maybe he was dead.
Yeah. So I was like, I guess I'll just run it out and see what happens. And like the last 4 miles, I just hammered it for what I could do. And I actually ran like, I think my fastest 4 miles of the weekend by a lot.
Oh my
and I'm
God.
like,
good for you.
I'm cruising past people because, at the end of a marathon in that 5-hour range, everybody's like hanging on, trying to get to the end.
That's when I was crying and then drinking.
Meanwhile,
in the last 5 miles.
I'm sprinting past everybody as fast as I possibly can.
Oh, I would have
And everybody is probably like, F that guy.
And I finally get to the end, and actually I had like 6 minutes to spare and made it under 5. And I was like everything just let out of me. And I was like,
that's an awesome goal, though.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Ridiculous.
I mean, it was a completely random goal that I just set for myself. Like, it didn't matter. If I went 5:01, who cares? If I went 5:10, who cares? But for me, it mattered on that day.
Yeah.
So, like, I let everything out. So I was like, oh, if I can do that, like, that made me think I could do a 50-miler and all that. So I started doing some longer stuff. That year was the year I ran my second half marathon ever.
That's when we met you.
Oh, that's when we met you.
Oh,
So I was coming
memories.
off of that when I ran Shamrock.
Oh, when you ran it like stupid fast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you
he
still
was in
finished
really
an hour
he was
before
in
all of
really
us.
great shape at that point.
I was really feeling good. So my goal in that spring was a 50-miler in Philly, actually on the same course, but all on trail, where I ran the half sour, half kraut. So that was the second weekend of May. I of course ended up getting into Big Sur and was like, well, of course I got to run Big Sur. And then I was like, you know what I should probably do? Go for my fastest marathon ever 2 weeks before my first 50-miler. And that was not a great idea. But I did. Like, my marathon PR is actually at Big Sur.
Which is ridiculous on those hills.
And,
oh my God.
But my legs were trashed for 2 weeks. So when I got to the 50-miler, like, I finished it, but I think I walked the last 15 miles mostly because my legs were still like dead. My legs were still out on the West Coast somewhere, like shot. So really, like, the Big Sur was probably the peak of that year. This was last year. And then, the 50-miler was great. I finished it. It was a great accomplishment. Then I figured, you know what? I should try and go for 100 miles on this 30-hour race in June. And that went terrible. It was supposed to be 85 degrees. It was 98 degrees.
Yeah, that one was really bad. I went and crewed that.
Yeah. And I totally bonked early. Like, I was at mile 20. It was like noon and I was falling asleep on my feet.
Well, that was, so the race was supposed to, he said it was supposed to be like 80, I think it was supposed to be like 88 degrees as a high. And it's supposed to be like, feels like 93. And it was like 11 o'clock in the morning and it had already hit like 95, like as a temperature, and was like, feels like 100 and something. And he's going and you're like wondering to yourself, do you tell the person who's running and miserable that it's like 10 to 15 degrees hotter than he was expecting? Or do you just let him keep going?
Yeah. I mean, I took a nap at mile 20. I went and laid in the tent because we had a tent set up and all. And I was like, I got to lay down. So I did learn a lot on that race, though. Like, I did 42 miles. I pulled the plug before around nighttime. I went out for a couple loops at night after some storms went through.
Well, sometimes you just have to. Like, sometimes you just have to say, I'm done.
Well, there was no goal I could go for at that point that I cared about. And I had learned what I needed to learn. Like, I'd learned about fueling early and paying more attention to fueling and liquids and stuff like that. So then my big goal coming up next was the 55-miler that Erin won, of course. That's been my big goal for like 2 years, to run that race. And I was really feeling great going into it. We had done a 50K in Maryland at the end of August. It was super hot, but like it was
That was
fine.
the one where we saw you.
Yeah, that was the one where we saw you. We grinded through that. But like I was feeling really good going into Batona last year.
Yeah, you had some really good training miles in that one.
So we're going. Like, you obviously know what happens with her race. She wins.
I think you were just intimidated by her greatness.
I think so. So we had this plan. We're like, all right. I'm like, look, here's what I'm planning to do. Like, just hang with me, whatever. And then if you fall back, it's fine and all that, right? So
Yes,
literally,
I was the one who was like, I don't think I can hang with you. We're going to stay together for a little while. I'll get you through those first miles. I'm going to do as much as I can through the first,
I said maybe
20.
10, 15, 20.
And see what happens. And then you just go.
Yeah.
You take off and I'm fine.
So like 5 miles in, we're riding there on the bus in the morning. It's a school bus from there's only like 50 people in this race. It's not some huge race. And I'm like, God, I just don't feel right. I just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
Like I was like, maybe it's something I ate, whatever. It'll work out. As I start running, I'll be fine. Yeah. And I'm running pretty good. I'm running like 10:30 pace early on, which is fine. It's a pretty flat trail. It's not anything crazy technical or anything like that. So, and all of a sudden, like 5 miles in, I'm like, wow, I gotta stop. So like 5 miles in, I make a quick pit stop. And I'm like, oh man. I was like, all right, I should be all right now. And we're cruising. So at mile like 8 or 9 is the first aid station. There's a bathroom. I'm like, man, I got to stop again. And I'm like, all right. So we get going again. And like mile, I don't know, 12 maybe?
I was gonna say, not
10?
even like 2 miles later.
Yeah.
Maybe?
I'm like, God, I got to stop again. Like this is all in the woods. This is not like.
Yeah, we're on a trail. So
this is
just going off
straight
into the
up.
woods.
Yeah. I'm like, oh
God.
man. And eventually we get to mile like 10 or 12. And I'm like, you got to go. Like, you just got to go because I don't know what's going to happen.
And I think that I hesitated for quite a while. Like, I didn't want to leave.
You should have went sooner, but
yeah,
we didn't know,
But if you were sick, like, I'm sure she didn't want to like leave you sick.
No. She should have left me sick. Actually.
But I just didn't know. I didn't know it was his goal race. There was like so much going through my head because like this wasn't a race that I had planned on doing myself. This was always his goal race. I felt bad that I was feeling good, which you should never feel bad that you're feeling good. But, it was just one of those things where like this was just something I was going to do to see what I could do. Whereas he'd been working for this for like months.
Yeah. And I was like, and going in, I felt great. That was the thing. And then like mile 10 hit. And then I was running with our friend Robert, who we had talked about last time. For a few miles, I'm hanging with him. And then all of a sudden I just got to stop again. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. And like, I'm starting to feel like achy and like that feverish feeling. And this is probably mile like 13. And I'm like, oh God. So like, I'm on my own for a long time at that point. And I'm fading way back, and there's an aid station at, where's Carranza? Is that like 20?
Yeah.
Like around mile 20. So from like 15 to 20, mile 15 to 20, I'm like getting in really bad shape. Like that achy, feverish feeling where everything hurts and you're starting to lunge. And now I'm doing like 20 to 25 minute miles because I can't move. Like, so then I get to the aid station there. And really, I should have pulled myself there, but I didn't, of course. So I get to the aid station there, and I find out she's in first for the women's division. And I'm like, all right, I got to get to the finish. I'm going to make it to the finish. So the next aid station is like not close.
I don't.
How far is it to Quaker? At least 6.
Well, 33 is Batstow, so
yeah, it's probably 10 miles to the next aid station. I start trying to walk again. I can't even do that. I have to stop and take a break every time I step over a log because I can't move.
I'm proud that you didn't cut it like before that.
Oh, I didn't even cut it there.
Is proud the right word? I'm not sure. I'm proud's the right word in this situation.
So I get to
compared. Like I'm thinking about like me when I was telling the story last episode and how whiny and miserable I was. I would have pulled myself out at any moment. So just hearing him saying I was feeling all this stuff and I kept going. I just can't believe it.
So I get to the next aid station. The pacer or the sweeper caught up to me, and I'm like, he's like, all right, I'll just hang with you. I'm not sure if there's someone behind you or not. I'm like, that's fine. I was like, look, he didn't know the trails or anything. I'm like, I know where I'm going. I'm just like not in good shape. So I get to the next aid station, and I don't pull myself there either because it's in the middle of the woods. The next spot, there's a car there, so I know I can get in the car and go. Well, that's 34 miles into this. So I went it's like 7 miles probably.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he just keeps going.
Like,
he made it 34 miles basically with a fever.
Yeah, and then I had a fever
and
for
dying.
like another 2 weeks after that. Like, I was in terrible shape. I mean, 25-minute miles. I had to stop and take breaks and sit down just to get there. And then I fell asleep in the car for 2 hours before I drove to the
I think when he took his temperature, it was like 102 degrees. It was like just above 102. And meanwhile, he's out there doing 34 miles with 102 fever, having to go to the bathroom every like 20 seconds.
Thankfully, that stopped at some point.
So he's got this virus or whatever the heck is happening that he just was in denial about that morning.
Yeah, so this is my goal race for like 2 years, right? And
you didn't want to give up.
Everything just went wrong.
Everything.
And
well, it happens.
Like, it really knocked me off my game for a good.
I still don't think you're recovered.
I don't think I have. But it definitely knocked me off of even wanting to run for like a solid 4 months.
Yeah.
Like,
mentally, you just haven't.
Yeah,
I feel like there was a real long mental recovery from that.
Yeah, and like, I think now it's weird with everything that's happened at all. It's kind of gotten me, like, between that race and how running is now, I've gotten to the point where I don't even care about races at all. I just really like the running part of it. And like, going out and doing a really long trail just to do it, I don't really need a reason to. Like, I don't need the race. I don't need to finish the race. I don't need, it's...
Well, you've matured.
That's where the 100K was kind of born from.
Yeah.
Like, you want to do your own goals. Like, you want to kind of like set your own adventures and kind of do your own thing and find, he not only did we wake up one day to this 100K idea, another time there was this idea to go from the top of New Jersey to the bottom of New Jersey, because going across the state's not enough. Let's do 200 and like 7 miles from bottom to top.
But I feel like I have more interest in those kind of odd, like, adventures than I do in the races. Like, I am signed up for Batona again this year if it goes off, which there's a chance it will because it's a small race and it's not till October, so hopefully it can. And I'll give it everything I have. Like, I have goals that I want for that. Like, I tried to actually, I don't know what it was, a few months after the race, I tried to go run the trail on my own, the whole 55 miles. And like, mentally, it was I just was not in a place to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I did like, I don't know, whatever, 35 miles or whatever. And I was like, I just don't care. Like, I don't care if I finish or not. It just wasn't in me at all to do it. Like, I was just mentally broken. Like, I poured so much into that race and everything went wrong. And I was like, now what?
Yeah.
Like, I did all that. Now what? So I think it took me a long time to figure what the now what was, and it's you can have those races, but have these other things that you enjoy around it. So the race isn't everything.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about that even when I was talking. Like, it's that joy that you lose. And I think I said that to you semi-recently. Like, I feel like sometimes when we run, it's because we're supposed to be and not because we want to be. And sometimes, we got to find that balance. And it's hard sometimes when you do have a goal and you want to do something and you've got to grind out those miles to make sure you can get to that goal. But you also got to figure out how then to bring that joy back into it somehow.
Yeah. So that's basically, running gave me, better health, obviously, probably a better outlook on life. And just, it really helped me with like the inadvertent side effects, or like helped me handle depression and other mental health issues anxiety, things that I really struggled with going into it that I weren't really a part of the plan to help. They just kind of came along with it. So that, it was a big change when it eventually happened. And then, finding all those ultra running videos kind of drove me to do the stuff that I really enjoy. And then missing that goal kind of drove me into a even different direction of something but still the same thing that I enjoy,
Yeah.
Just learning to enjoy it in different ways.
Yeah.
I love that evolution.
Yeah. And that mental thing that you're talking about, I mean, that's not something that we've really talked about, Diana and I, but I mean, I think that as a runner, that's all things that we all take out of running.
Absolutely.
And, when we get further down into some run topics, that's actually something that's really good conversation to have is, the mental effects that running can really bring you, the self-confidence that it can bring you and all the things that it does for you mentally. So
yeah, sometimes Tom will even say to me, he's like, do you need to go out for like a run or something? Because like I'll be cranky. And then as soon as I get back from my run, I'm fine. Like I need to run it out.
Well, if you think about any team sport, I think running is so different because of the amount of time you spend in your own head by yourself.
Yeah. And I run without music too.
Yeah.
So
I can't be that alone with my phone.
Yeah, that's another whole topic for another whole episode is running with music and what we do.
Arguments and retorts and man.
I mean, I solve the world's problems while I'm out for a run sometimes, right? Or at least I think I do. And then I come back and realize that I haven't. But, that's also true.
Oh, man. All right. Well, that's enough of me. I've taken up way too much time. So let's get into the results of Would You Rather real quickly and then into the new thing.
All right. He's trying to change topics real fast there.
I know. I feel like he has like the best story, too.
I'm watching the clock. That's why.
I know. I saw. I've been watching too.
Keep us on track.
I've been watching. Anyway, so last week we had the Would You Rather that asked the questions about snot rockets or chafing. So, on Facebook, we had 86% of you that said you would prefer to chafe over being team snot rocket and having a snot rocket on you every race. On Instagram, it was a little bit more even. We had 42% of the people who said that they would take some snot and 58% said chafing. But to be fair, one of the snot votes was from a dog named Archie.
His vote counts. His vote counts.
I'm not. Archie the dog doesn't mind snot on him.
I do want to point out that most people agreed with me, by the way, that chafing was the way to go.
Yes. In the end, their total results were 27% said snot rockets. Again, one of those includes a dog. 73% said chafing. Angie said, I chafe on most of my long runs anyway, so that wouldn't be a major change for me. If someone's snot got on me, I'd probably barf.
Yep. Amen.
Nicole agreed and said, let's be real, that she already experiences it, so she doesn't see the problem with it continuing. Lynn said, first, I'd like to thank you for literally making me gag during my 6:30 a.m. run this morning.
An unintentional goal.
Very entertaining podcast, but gag worthy towards the end there. I'd have to go with chafing, even though I've never chafed any body part in my life. I know it's weird, but it's true.
Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous.
Right?
I'm so jealous.
That's what I said. I said, Diana and I were confused. And she answered that that one day when she was running on the boards with some of our friends, that one of our friends mentioned that she had been chafed. And she had to go home and look up what chafing was because she'd never even heard of it. Which is ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Here's a fun fact. My mom, she calls when you chafe in between your legs, she calls it, what does she call it? Crotch rot.
Oh my. All right. And Lynn did say that she imagined it's showering like with a sunburn, which I will tell you this weekend, I was chafed twice, once on my underarm, once on my back, and I got sunburnt. So the combination of the two this week has been really fun. Let me tell you, I'm still
what was
team
worse
snot.
In the shower, the sunburn or
it was all terrible. The whole thing experience of getting into the shower was awful. So I am still wholly team snot rocket after this weekend. Matt from where is he from, Diana?
Oh, Matt Frumpa.
Matt Frumpa says that he's Team Snot Rocket for sure. After chafing a nipple, never again.
I can't wait till we have a chafing episode.
We
I can talk
are-
about the City of Oaks Marathon.
Very excited for to have a chafing episode.
Yeah, it's going to be
We have been
full-blown
talking
chafe.
about this for like since we decided we were going to start a podcast. All right. So this week, instead of a would you rather, we are going to go into a this or that segment, which is going to be kind of similar to the would you rather because it is kind of a would you rather, but it's just two choices. It's two very simple choices. They'll be themed sometimes for running, sometimes for Disney, sometimes for whatever I feel like.
So not
theming them.
two terrible choices.
Not two terrible choices. Two nice choices, because the thing is, if you can only have one of these things for the rest of your life, what would you choose? This or that? So this week, since we haven't really talked about Disney too much, and all of us are big Disney fans, we are going to go with the Disney theme. Everybody ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
This or that. We're going to go with two rides at Disney. So for the rest of your life, you could either go on the People Mover or Space Mountain. And that means that you could never go on the other one ever again. You have to choose this or that.
And this is World, right? Because the
Yeah.
People Mover
I'm
isn't
sorry.
in Disneyland
Yes.
anymore.
Yes, you're right. This isn't Disney World.
Well, I refuse to ride Space Mountain since they got rid of the bench seats where you had to straddle the people in front of you in a weird, disturbing way. Does anybody else remember those?
Yes.
Can you go one episode without being sexual?
No, for me, it's People Mover all day. There's not even, it's not even a choice.
Not even a choice.
No, I love
You would
People
never
Mover.
be able to go on Space Mountain.
That's
ever
perfectly
again.
fine. I love People Mover.
Okay.
So.
That was a really easy choice for him.
It was easy. See, I feel like I'm struggling. I'm going to go with Space Mountain only because I just have really great memories of being on that ride when I was a CP and just laughing so hard I had tears in my eyes. So for the nostalgia of my Disney experience, I think it'll have to be Space Mountain.
I think I lean more towards the thrill rides. So I would definitely pick Space Mountain. And then specifically because when we went to Disneyland Paris, there was Diana, keep me honest, there was a Space Mountain there, but on the side of Space Mountain, it said, in big letters, it said Baltimore Gun Club on the side of Space Mountain in Disneyland Paris. And I've been very confused about that since we've been there. Like, I just don't understand the reference. I don't understand why it's there.
Well, it's very steampunk. That's the word I was
Okay.
looking for.
Yeah.
The whole Tomorrowland there is Jules Verne, steampunky, from the Earth to the Moon. And there's Space Mountain. Actually, it's like a launch. It's like a coaster. It's not
That's
like a
in-
Wild Mouse.
That's in
inside the
Paris?
dark. In Paris.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
never
so-
been to Disneyland Paris.
I'm definitely all about Space Mountain.
Awesome.
Okay, so we've got two.
Yeah, to me, I just love the classics, which Space Mountain, obviously a classic also, but I don't know.
But you still get a little bit of Space Mountain
Yeah.
if on the People Mover, right?
True.
Likes that Wedway People Mover.
Yeah. Yep.
People
Third-
Mover has become super popular these days.
Well, not
I
these
remember-
days.
Well,
but-
Yeah.
well, we know what I meant.
There used to be no one on it.
That's why I loved it.
And the last few times I've been, there has been like a 20+ minute wait. There's
Yeah.
always, like on the Disney app, there's always a wait now. Why is
Yeah.
there always a wait?
Fast Pass Plus ruined everything.
Gosh.
Yeah. I agree. We could do a whole episode on that.
Did you know Space Mountain is the third tallest mountain in Florida?
No.
Or it was.
I did not.
When it used to be Wedway People Mover.
Fun
used,
fact.
They used
from
to
the
say
this
that.
or that.
They used to say that on there.
Paging Mr. Morrow, Mr. Tom Morrow.
All right, so Erin, with this or that, do you answer or just us?
No, this is like the same kind of thing where when it's Michael's segment, Michael gets to be part of it. or doesn't get to be part of it. When I do it, I don't get to be.
All right. It was clear I wasn't paying attention in the pre-meeting.
I feel like whoever comes up with it, well, we got some other ideas too, where the people will have to express their opinions.
Yeah.
So we've got some new segments coming your way.
Yeah.
I feel like we
Gotta
want to
keep it fresh.
Yeah, well, we want to rotate this part so nothing gets a little stale. You got to rotate.
Yeah.
Right.
You always got to rotate. So, on that note, again, because we have a this or that, we will be able to post this on our Facebook and Instagram so that you guys could tell us what you would choose. If you had to give up one ride for the rest of your life, would it be? What would you choose to stay on? Space Mountain or the People Mover? Let us know, and we'll let you know next week what you all say.
Thank you, Erin. That was a lot of fun. And to bring us to our last segment, we'd like to wrap up each episode with sharing something good with our listeners. As always, it can be anything from a beer to an experience to a television show, whatever we feel like sharing. So who wants to kick us off this week?
I'll go first and keep it in the Disney world with a podcast called The Mad Chatters. Two gentlemen. I think one's from Tennessee, one's in Orlando now, maybe. Anyway, it's a super fun Disney show. They talk a lot about the movies as well as the parks and other things. They do a lot of games and all kinds of stuff. Have guests on sometimes from other Disney podcasts. It's a really great, fun, light show. And you can tell they just love the parks and love Disney stuff in general. So it's a really, really fun listen.
Nice.
One I recommend highly.
That's awesome. So for me, I think it was last Saturday marked the 45th anniversary of the movie Jaws, which is definitely in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. Mm-hmm. It's a classic. It's damn near a perfect movie. I think it's got a 98 or something % on Rotten Tomatoes. You feel free to fact check me on that, but it's been one of my favorites for a very long time. So if you feel like watching a summer flick, check out Jaws. And if you haven't seen Jaws, shame on you.
I watched a movie this weekend called Once is Enough. It is on Amazon Prime. It is a running movie by a comedian named Jeffrey Biney. He tells a story about why he started doing this, or why he made a goal to do a race. I don't want to give too much away about it, but he is, just your average Joe who had something happen to him and decided that he needs to get in better shape. He was at the hospital and he saw a trail running magazine and decided, hey, I could probably do this. So he decided to run a 100-miler, and it's the story and his journey to that. But he's a stand-up comedian, so he does it in a very funny fashion about his weight loss journey, about his, the starting out running, because he's not only, made this goal, but his goal is to run 100 miles for the first race he's ever going to do.
Oh, wow.
And he does it like while doing stand-up. So it kind of goes back and forth between his stand-up show and his actual journey and seeing his training. I highly recommend it. It was hilarious. He was great at storytelling. It was a really good time.
Ooh, yeah, we'll add that to the list. Maybe we'll watch that this weekend. So for me this week, I'm going to go a little bit different. So summertime means I'm laying by the pool, which means I'm reading a lot more, I read all year, but I read particularly in the summer. And I finally read The Princess Diarist, the book Carrie Fisher wrote. It was the book that came out basically right before she passed away. And I've had it for a couple of years and I just haven't read it. And it's all about her diary that she kept while she was filming the first Star Wars movie. And she talks about the affair she has with Harrison Ford. So it talks all about that, and then it kicks it off, and then it has actual pages from her diary in it, and then it wraps it up at the end. And I don't know, she is just one of my favorite humans of all time. She's got the great sense of humor, humility. she's got like the weird extrovert disease that I have, where we talk to think and that we share too much, and just her story is always really relatable. So I've read most of her books. She's got some fiction, and then she's got some more autobiographical books, but it's called The Princess Diarist, and you can hear some sexy details about a young Harrison Ford and how aloof he was.
Ooh, sexy. I'm into that.
Very nice.
I'll put in the show notes links to the different things that we talked about and that we liked, so that you guys can go find them for yourselves.
Sounds good.
All right, so that about wraps up this episode. Be sure to tag us on Facebook and Instagram at Will Run 4 Podcast. Be sure to hashtag your stories and include photos so we can share them with our community. Also, don't forget that we would love to know what you're running for this week. So please leave comments. You can even send us an email at willrun4podcast@gmail.com. We will have new episodes every other Monday. So please be sure to share us and have your friends subscribe. And if you like what you hear, leave a 5-star review on Apple. And if you can review us on other platforms, please do so. We love the support. But really, on behalf of all of us, thank you for listening. We're very excited to be able to share this with you. And so this is Tom. And for Erin, Diana, and Michael, we will see you later.
Bye.
Bye.